Hello, welcome to the first episode of the Charity Cup Chats. I'm delighted to be welcomed by Justin Edinburgh Founder Charlie Edinburgh. Charlie, thanks for joining me, mate.
No worries, Riley. How you doing, mate? You all okay?
I'm good, thank you.
Good stuff.
So the point of doing this was obviously it would have been 2 weeks today from the match, but we couldn't play it. So we're just trying to do what we can to raise awareness and raise funds in the meantime.
Absolutely.
Starting off, how's lockdown?
Well, it's been a challenging time. I think for everybody, it's one of these things that you never sort of imagined or envisaged would probably happen in your lifetime. But look, as a family, I'm still at home with my mum and my sister. So the three of us, without sort of getting straight onto the topic of Dad, we've come through tougher times probably this time last year. So this for us is a bit of a walk in the park, really, just a chance to be together at home and utilise sort of time to do things that you wouldn't usually be able to do. Obviously, that allows me to focus a lot of time onto plans for the foundation moving forward, because obviously with the current climate, as we all know, with the Charity Cup match, which was going to go ahead, it's put a lot of things and a lot of plans on hold. So it's a good chance to sort of brainstorm, mate, and get some ideas of different ways that we can raise awareness, make a difference, and make sure that there's something positive coming out of this terrible time, because there's just so many people tragically losing their lives to COVID, and it's been tough. My best friend, he lost his granddad to it. It's affecting people near us all, so you just try and be as positive as you can, and I think that's what I try to do in any walk of life, but yeah, we're safe and well. I do think I had it probably when I got back from America, end of sort of February, beginning of March. I haven't been tested, but I'm pretty convinced all of the symptoms and stuff. But no, touch wood, all safe and well, so can't complain.
Good. And obviously trying to keep busy.
Absolutely. Turned to a bit of a fitness fanatic, to be honest. Just trying to make use of my day, do something positive. And I think, exercising obviously is a great way to clear the head, be productive, releases endorphins that makes you feel good. So yeah, I've bought a road bike for the first time in my life, so I'm getting used to that. I've been out on that today, and been making use of that, and just utilising different things. I've been doing I believe you said you got Josh Wright coming on the show. Been doing his brother Mark's HIIT workouts quite a lot, and him and Josh did one yesterday morning, so I jumped in on that. But yeah, just as I say, mate, utilising the time, but as well focusing a lot of time on brainstorming plans and ideas for how we can continue to grow the Justin Edinburgh Foundation.
Yeah, you actually touched on my next point there about the Mark Wright fitness, because it's not just the physical improvements, it's, like you said, the mental aspect of it, and making sure you are keeping busy and thinking about the positives.
Absolutely, mate. I think, it's one thing being sort of locked down in our houses. Obviously, the restrictions and stuff have been sort of, I guess, reduced slightly. But I think you've got to keep active. You've got to keep yourself positive and exercise and doing things like that. Whether it's going for a walk, taking the dog out for a walk, or going for a little run, cycle, whatever your body allows you to do, you come back in to the house, because it's like being confined in any space for a long period of time. It does get challenging. Nice to get a change of scenery, bit of fresh air, and make sure that you're keeping active at the same time.
Yeah. So I'm going to take you back to 1988.
Yeah.
Was you alive then?
I wasn't, mate. No, I was born 92, but listen up. Obviously, I think people are aware of how highly I regard my dad, somebody that I look up to, my hero, as I say, quite publicly. But yeah, I've studied his career enough. So yeah, hopefully on the Southend side of things, I shouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, started his career off at Southend as a youth player, and then worked his way into the first team. Do you have were you told any good stories from his time at Southend?
Yeah. Obviously, I think, you know, the first thing about Dad is for any young player that might be tuning in to watch this, hopefully we get a good football following and, you know, with the work that you're trying to do. I think first things first is to say, don't ever give up on your dream. You know, if football is what you want to do, Dad didn't get picked up till late. You know, he was playing local Sunday league football until, like you say, 1988. So I think he was maybe 15, 16 at the time, and had never been at a professional football club, you know. So don't ever think that it's too late or, you know, you can't break through. But yeah, he joined initially as a YTS, as they called it back then, or a scholar. And yeah, he had some amazing times. I think at the time he was living in Basildon, so used to get the train down. He wasn't able to drive at that point. Used to get the train down with one of the foundation's trustees, a guy called Darren Coote, who's been amazing for us. But him and Dad were very close, scholars together, and yeah, used to travel down, often stop on the way back and grab fish and chips, which I probably don't think is a dumb thing. But yeah, wonderful memories. Obviously, Dad often spoke to me about, you know, at the time, Bobby Moore was at the club, so former, you know, World Cup winning captain for our country. What a person to sort of look up to and try and impress, you know. And as time went on, he continued to push himself like he always did throughout his career, and lots of good players that he played with. People would look back at that Division 4 winning side, Division 4, Division 3. I'm not too sure. You'd have to test me testing my knowledge. But that side that went on to win the league under Dave Webb, who, again, somebody that we've seen quite a lot of recently, because Dave's son Danny was part of Dad's coaching side at Leyton Orient. So it's weird how the game goes. And obviously Mark was part of that Southend team as well, who was also director of football for Dad at Leyton Orient. So yeah, lots of good memories. A really, really good platform for him and a really good foundation to go in and learn the ropes, because, as I say, he'd gone from playing sort of Sunday league and he was thrown in at the deep end with men. And he said, you know, probably stories not on here, but some really testing times, you know.
Yeah.
The more senior pros really making him sort of earn their respect and earn his stripes to be sort of, I guess, welcomed, or not welcomed, but accepted into that sort of first team environment. And, you know, I think it was only a matter of time before clubs started to sort of take notice that Southend had picked a player up that was going to sort of go on to bigger and better things. Not to talk down about Southend, but it was sort of a matter of time before he initially got that loan move to Tottenham. It was initially a loan move. He obviously went in there and impressed and come back to sort of see out that sort of title winning campaign with Southend before sort of eventually signing full-time with Tottenham. So amazing times at Southend. Roots Hall, very special place. I know he always loved going back there, both as a player and as a manager. Often spoke to me about, you know, night games midweek. He loved playing. He said it reminded him of a little Subbuteo ground just with the floodlights on it. And yeah, special place. And obviously without Southend, he wouldn't have got the platform to go on and do the amazing things that he went on to achieve with his career.
Yeah. So, like you said, 1990, I think I'm right saying, Tottenham come calling.
Yeah, absolutely.
The fee I've got here is £150,000, which is absolutely a lot of money for that day.
Absolutely. But then you look at it now and it looks like peanuts. But at the time, 150,000 back in that day was a lot of money, and probably a lot of money to a club like Southend, you know. And I think it weren't sort of long after. I think Spurs also took Dean Austin as well. So, look, it was a move which I know he was delighted to get over the line. Obviously, a club as big and as rich in history as Tottenham Hotspur, and you only had to look at the squad of players that he was going to be linking up with. He was, I think I wouldn't say overwhelmed. I think it was more he relished the challenge, and he was going to be able to test himself and try and better himself, surrounded with the likes of players that I'm sure we're going to talk about.
So he is Tottenham's most decorated player since the mid-'80s. That's some stat.
Yeah, it's something that as a family, we're very proud of. I know that he was extremely proud of. As a Spurs fan, for me, probably a little bit gutted that we ain't silverware for somebody to take that that sort of title off of him, if you will. But look, an amazing achievement, an FA Cup and a League Cup winners' medal, two fantastic things to win as a player, and obviously the opportunity to play at Wembley in both of those occasions. But yeah, I mean, for him, they were right up there with sort of the highlights in his career. But yeah, just more amazing memories with a fantastic football club. But to be most decorated player, I know, was something that when you look at the calibre of players that Spurs have had over the years, you've only got to look at the likes of, in my time even, your Bowles, your Berbatovs, Van der Vaarts, Modric, Ledley Kings. List goes on, doesn't it? The players
even
there
the
that you would have
got now.
Exactly, and I think, I hope as a Spurs fan it's not too long till we pick up our next bit of silverware. And but whilst he's got that title, it's something that we are extremely proud of.
Yeah. So, like you said, played with the likes of David Ginola, Paul Gascoigne, Gary Lineker. So that's like just some of the calibre of the players he played with. I'm going to bring up the '99 League Cup final.
Yeah.
Didn't start off the best, but it all ended all right in the end.
It did, yeah. I mean, I wasn't born the '91 final, so this was my first opportunity to see Dad in a cup final at Wembley. So every young boy growing up, if they could say that they've seen their dad play in a cup final at Wembley, just what dreams are made of. An interesting day, as you say. First sort of period of the game, it's tense. It's like any cup final, it's cagey. Robbie Savage, obviously done a great job of ruffling some feathers on the day, and spoken quite publicly about it. He obviously got the better of Dad, and whether Dad, I don't know what he intended to do, whether it was a slap, a palm, a punch, whatever it was, didn't make full connection. Obviously, we all know in the game you can't raise your hands in football, and he unfortunately was dismissed. And I know it was something that he wanted the ground to swallow him up, on that stage in a cup final. He probably felt that he'd let his teammates down. And look, football is a funny game, but Leicester City then are at a man advantage, and you probably would have put your money on Leicester to go on and win the game with that advantage. But fair play to Spurs and the team, and Alan Nilsson scores that winner, and it goes from sort of tears to smiles from our perspective as a family, and.
Yeah.
Another proud moment. I know he was so relieved that the boys were able to get the job done on the day, and send all the fantastic fans home with something to celebrate. And I think another sort of I've spoken about it before. I think he's actually the last player to get sent off at the old Wembley. That's another stat about Dad. So not only is he Spurs' most decorated player since the sort of mid-late 80s, but he's also the last player to get sent off at the old Wembley. So one that he was proud of, he wasn't so proud of.
I suppose that does show the highs and lows of football, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that makes it the game it is, right? And that's why we all love it.
Yeah. So just from picking up, talking to you now, and obviously seeing over social media the past few months, if there's one thing we've learned, it's just how proud you all are as a family. What is it like growing up with Justin Edinburgh? the footballer? Because obviously you knew him as dad.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, Riley, as I sort of said to people that have asked me a similar question to that since he's passed, it's really strange because I never knew anything different. From the day I was born, I was attending football matches, and obviously it wasn't probably till you sort of 5, 6, 7 years of age that you actually start to take in and realise that, oh, that's dad playing football. And playing against some of the Premier League greats in some of the best stadiums in the world, and it's really strange. And I don't want to sound like I don't know what the word is, that I'm not appreciative, or it doesn't wow me, because it absolutely does.
Yeah.
It's you look back on what he achieved, and I often, for my own peace of mind and my own comfort now, often find myself on YouTube watching videos of him playing. I watch Premier League years. There's been a lot of that on Sky, with obviously no football being on the telly. And it's just great to see him coming up against, people like David Beckham. And, so he's just won. Obviously, he was a right midfielder. Dad was but just testing and challenging himself, I guess, against some of the greatest players that I've grown up watching, and certainly my friends and others have. But it's a really, really strange one to try and explain, because, my friends' dads, they might have jobs in the city, they might be builders, they might be whatever their job, it's their dad at the end of the day. And I think, everybody's proud of their dad. I guess for me, it was more dad's job was a lot more magnified.
Yeah.
It's especially as he went into the managerial side of things, focused a lot more on results and opinions of other people, which was definitely something that I struggled with, because you're sitting in football stands, especially the older that I got and the more that I understood, and you're hearing people saying not nice things about your dad. It's not normal, because your dad goes to work, or one of my friends' dad go to work. They don't get the same people going, you're no good, you don't know what you're doing. It's a really tough industry to be involved with. And, as a family, we rode that roller coaster with him. We went through all of the highs, we went through all of the lows. And obviously something that I'm extremely proud of, and can look back and say that, Dad played X amount of games in professional football, and won these amazing things that as children we all dream of winning, and all dream of doing. Every boy's dream is to be a footballer, right? And he got to live that dream. Yeah,
like you said, the sort of abuse is something I've learned as a fan. When I was 15, 16, I think I'm the best, I can do better. But then you grow up, you learn these are just humans living their dream.
Absolutely. They're getting paid to go and do a job at the end of the day, and people will say they're overpaid. People will say this, that, and the other. But who's to judge? That is the beauty of football: is everybody's opinion is valid. Yeah. You can say you can't say that, you can't say this. Obviously, there's certain things you can't say within football, and we all know what I mean by that. But I think, especially when it's your flesh and blood, and people are making comments or making judgments without actually getting to know the person, getting to know the man, getting to know my dad, is tough. And especially as I got older, that was something that I had to appreciate was part of the game. And, unfortunately, you are going to get some idiots out there that will pass judgment. And it is what it is. But majority of people, as I say, and that is one thing that I'm so proud of, is since he's passed, all people have had to say is good things. And I see the tributes, I see what players that he played with, I see what players he's managed, I see friends, family, what they all have to say about him and their memories. And there's nothing better, there's nothing more sort of fulfilling and more heartwarming than people just speaking good things about someone that means so much to you. So for me, an amazing thing, but surreal. But it was the norm growing up with dad as a professional footballer.
Do you think the fact that he was loved by so many and is still loved by so many, that's helped you deal with it over the past few months?
Yeah, definitely. We all said as a family, well, me, my mum, my sister, that we knew he was loved. We knew he was a popular character amongst our sort of friendship group and friends and family. But we didn't realise how sort of loved and appreciated he was until you see the tributes flooding in. And you touched him earlier, David Ginola dedicating his PFA Player of the Year award for that season to Dad, and Gary Mabbutt, who was a famous Tottenham captain, going on to say that he could have potentially seen Dad going on to manage Tottenham one day. They're the sorts of things that fill me with so much pride, and I guess have sort of helped ease the pain and the hurt that we've sustained, because it was so tragic. It still doesn't seem real now, even though we're only sort of a matter of weeks away from it being a year since he's passed away. I definitely feel that, for me personally, my mum and my sister might say different, but hearing people speak about him, talk about him, makes it easier for me, definitely. But each their own. Everybody sort of deals different with grief,
Yeah, because obviously from a personal point of view, I never knew your dad, but it did touch me when it happened, and we wanted to do, as Southend fans, what we could show our appreciation. And I've done this 5 years now, and this year I've never seen so much support from like footballers, football clubs, and it just goes to show to me just how loved he was. Like Leyton Orient, obviously they're a rival. I shouldn't like anything about them, but next time we play them, I don't think I'll be able to say anything bad about them, because it's a great club filled with great people, and they've been brilliant to help out.
No, I appreciate that, and that's very kind, and it's probably hard for you to say as a Southend fan. Look, all of the football clubs, obviously Leyton Orient was the club that Dad was working for at the time the tragedy took place, and they've been amazing for my family. We've never had to go through anything like it, but they've been superb, as is every football club, as is the whole footballing world, and every football club's wanted to help out and offered their support, and it just makes you realise that all of the bad press that football can often get, when something like that happens, just actually shows you how many good people are involved in it. And that's people like yourself, wanting a supporter of a lower league football club who wants to make a difference, take the time out and raise fantastic funds for something that's close to mine and my family's heart. But you are doing amazing things, and we're so appreciative of that, as are we with everybody that's got behind the foundation so far. And it doesn't matter about the donations, Riley, to be honest. Obviously we're looking to raise money to make a difference and make sure that people don't have to experience what we did as a family. But for me, the comfort is just seeing people checking in and making sure that I'm all right, and telling me what a great man my dad was. Not that I need that reassurance, because I know him, but it just, to know what a difference he made and how he touched people's lives, people that he never even met and probably didn't know on a personal level, but the support and everything has just been overwhelming. It really, really has. Yeah.
We'll talk more about the foundation and the support you've received later, but just start off now with his managerial career.
Yeah.
Wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Started right at the bottom with Billericay.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think for Dad, he obviously retired from the game due to injury, was obviously down in Portsmouth. We moved back. Portsmouth was the only time, believe it or not, in the whole of his career that he ever made us move as a family. It was just the journey. Obviously, as a player, it's different to a manager. Obviously, you're training, there's a lot of strain on your legs and stuff. And for him, travelling that distance in the car after training, playing games, just wasn't, especially where he was at the end of his career as well. I think he had a dodgy knee, so wouldn't have done him any justice him sitting in the car. So we actually did move down to Portsmouth, but once we moved back, you know, he actually his first sort of coaching roles when he started doing his coaching badge, he worked in the Spurs Academy. Not a lot of people know that. He managed the under-13 side in the Tottenham Academy before making the jump into the men's game. And I think, you know, there's a lot of people that probably thought he was mad to do that because obviously Kushti, you know, you're working at a football club where you're highly regarded, you're working with the kids, it's quite an easy job. You're not, as an academy manager, you're not going to be judged, you know, as much as, not that there is pressure in academy football, of course, but the men's game, when it's people's livelihoods, etc., on the line, it becomes a lot more real. So fair play to him. He rolled his sleeves up. We lived in Billericay at the time. It was the local football club. He saw an opportunity, backed himself to go in there, and I don't think he realised quite the task that he'd put himself up for. You know, pumping up balls, cleaning, training kit and bibs and whatnot. It was real sort of grassroots type stuff compared to what he used to, you know. And I think it gave him a real good sort of grounding to learn. Through his whole managerial career, he had so many things happen during that managerial career that, and things that had happened in his playing career that he was able to sort of take bits of, and when he sort of progressed and moved up the ladder in the managerial game, things like the time spent at Billericay Town and Fisher Athletic, Grays Athletic, were all things that were going to stand him in good stead for the future. He then obviously went on to sort of manage Rushden and Diamonds, another massive non-league football club, you know, unbelievable setup. I often went to training with him, and best facilities I've ever seen for a non-league club. It was a joke, like literally a joke. The training ground, the stadium, everything about it was just, he'd worked so hard to get to a club like that. And he had the devastating task of, you know, one of his players tragically killed himself, committed suicide, goalkeeper Dal Roberts. He was only a young lad, somebody that Dad held in such high regard. And it was the things like that, you know, that he's had to pull a coach over on the way to the game to tell the rest of that group of players that one of their teammates had killed himself. Those are the sort of things that people don't always remember about his journey, sorts of experiences that he had to go through. And, you know, hard enough learning of somebody passing, but when it's somebody that you work with on a day-to-day and you hold in such high regard. But again, that club went out of business, another massive hurdle to overcome, because it's like you fall in love with a club and they have the funds cut and they go bust, and it was pick yourself up, dust yourself down time, and he went again.
Yeah. So obviously we mentioned Fisher Athletic, won promotion with them, brief spell with Grays, and then got playoffs with Rushden and Diamond. Yeah,
absolutely. So he got playoffs with Billericay. He won a load of stuff with Fisher. I think that season that they got promoted to the Conference South, I think they'd done like a quadruple in terms of the different sort of cups and stuff they were involved in. And it took a lot for him to join Fisher from Billericay, to be honest, because, as I say, I think because we lived in Billericay, I think he felt a little bit that he was he never wanted to leave. But obviously the time's going to come when he saw an opportunity again and a chance to progress his career. And a great group of players at Fisher. Then went on to Grays Athletic. Maybe didn't have as many great times. I think they got to a NFA Trophy semi-final under his reign, and he sort of done his remit, steadied the ship. They didn't have the biggest of budgets, I don't believe. And then, as I say, went on to Rushden and Diamonds and guided them to the playoffs, but unfortunately got beat by Oxford, who ended up winning the playoffs and getting promoted back to the Football League. Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that it was 2011 when his career really took off as a manager?
I think so. I remember him sort of me and him would always sort of text and stuff, and like obviously we lived in the same house, but
yeah.
I'd always pester him, and when I was at work or at school or whatever. And I remember him saying he was going to take the Newport County job, and I was a bit like, well, first and foremost, not a club that I've heard a great deal about, and that's not me being naive. Obviously, they're a club that I'm very familiar with now and know a lot about their history, and rich in lots of tradition and lots of achievements, and players like John Aldridge playing for the football club. But it was a job that, again, a club that was right down the wrong end of the table, really out of his comfort zone. We remained as a family in Essex, but he was travelling back and forth to Wales every day, which again just sort of demonstrates the sort of dedication and the grit and the determination of the man to succeed. But I don't think anybody could have sort of planned or envisaged what he was going to be able to go in there and do. Went in there, steadied the ship, gets them to an FA Trophy final that season at Wembley, which for me was amazing. First time to see Dad as a manager on the biggest stage, and unfortunately the result didn't go their way, but another moment that I know he was so proud of. And then the next season, he's able to bring in the players that he wants. He's a massive person, a massive part of getting Newport County moved from Spitty Park to Rodney Parade, which is where they play their games now, to make it feel more of a sort of professional setup. And they achieved promotion via the playoffs that season. And it was sort of a zero to hero type story. And he's been since, as I'm sure we'll talk about, inducted into Newport County's Hall of Fame for his achievements. And whenever I've been back to Newport, I had a spell working as a football agent, and I attended a couple of Newport's games when Dad wasn't actually managing there, when Dad was still alive, and fans recognised my face and they just wanted to shake my hand, cuddle me, because I was flesh and blood, and my dad, he's literally held as like a hero down there. And amazing times at Newport, and a club which means so much to him and to us as a family, without being local, because the majority of the clubs that he's worked for have been within a sort of area that we can get to quite easily. But Newport was a time we weren't able to get to as many games as we would have liked because of the distance. Couldn't go to midweek games because I would have school or work or whatever it might have been. But 2011, I would say, was the sort of time where that managerial, I think people started to stand up and take Justin Edinburgh, the manager, a bit more serious, and started to understand what he could provide and do for a football club. Yeah.
So obviously, like you said, they were 23rd when he took over. That season, they reached the FA Trophy final, and then the year after, promotion. One manager of the year. Yeah. Obviously, like you said, he was driving back and forth from Wales every day, so that makes that achievement 10 times better.
100%. Him and his assistant, Jimmy Dack, they put in not just hours on their motorways, but the effort to get the types of players that they wanted to go and play down there. It's not local. Probably wasn't the most attractive of football clubs for players to want to go and play for. There was probably better options nearer to where they live. But credit to the pair of them, because they put in some real graft, and with the support and the backing of the board there. Tim Harris, who was a director of football there, Howard. There was all key people in sort of achieving. It was something. Dad would never be the person to sit here and say it was all me. It's a team. That was what it was all about, was instilling that belief that it was a team. It was a combined and joint goal that they all needed to reach, and they all done that. And it was one of the standout days. We done Wembley. Had after party after that, and great memories, great times. And few days later, we all went down to Newport as a family, and we'd done a open top bus parade of Newport, which was amazing, an experience that I'd never experienced. You know, seeing grown men cry in the streets and knowing that my dad had something to do with that was something that I'm very, very proud of.
Yeah, and then February 2015, local sidecom calling, Gillingham.
Yes, I think for Dad, it was going to take a lot to draw him away from Newport. I think he'd built up a reputation, as we say, and there was offers. I think Portsmouth, a club that Dad had paid for, made an approach for Dad to go and be their manager, but he didn't feel at that point, with where Portsmouth were heading as a football club, and the journey that he was going on with Newport, that was necessarily the right time to move. And you know, Portsmouth are a massive football club, so it was really going to take something special to lure him away. But I think in the end, he wanted to be back home. He wanted to be with us as a family. I feel that he felt that he'd maybe taken that group of players. I'm not saying Newport can't go further, because we've seen in recent years they've been playoffs, competing at the top end of League Two. They're a really well-established League Two side football league club, and they can certainly go on to bigger and better things under Michael Flynn. But I think he felt at that point, when the approach had come from Gillingham, that he'd maybe taken Newport as far as he could, and that he needed a new project, a new, I guess, group of players to sort of test his skills with and take himself to that next level. It was, again, a step up, that League One platform, which he'd never managed in, and it was an opportunity, as I say, for him to be back at home.
Yeah, and obviously he did quite well with Gillingham. The highest they reached was second in League One, and they was up. I remember as a Southend fan, they were up there for quite a bit of the season too.
Yeah, they were. It was them and Walsall sort of battling it out for the large part up the top of the table, and then they fell away. And I know he was so gutted about that. Spoke quite openly, you know, about what a season that they'd had. You know, you've got obviously players like Josh Wright, Bradley Dack, John Egan, all players that have gone on to have amazing careers. You know, John Egan playing his trading in the Premier League, and that's wrong of me to just pinpoint those particular players, because it was a really strong group, and they come so close. Had a bad little run of form, but they did get some bad injuries to Dack and Egan at quite a crucial time during that season. So I think, you know, looking at it, you take sort of key elements away of any business, you know, at a crucial time, it's going to have an effect on results. And unfortunately they fell away. I think though they ended up finishing 9th, which I believe is still their highest finish in the league for quite a number of years. I think obviously they sort of yo-yoed between League 1 and 2 for a couple of seasons, but I think for a number of years the 9th in League 1 is sort of their highest finish. So again, some people will say not a successful spell. I think he come out of it again with more wisdom, more knowledge, an understanding of that level it takes. But I think all in all, it was much to his disappointment, and the way it all come about, his time, I feel that he felt ended a bit prematurely there, and was maybe sacked a little bit prematurely. But listen, football's the game, as I said, it's opinions and whatnot. But I think more frustrating for him was just the manner in which it come about. And it was then a period of time out of the game for him, which was actually the longest period that we had him at home driving us all mad, because I think he was out of the game. No, sorry, we go on to Northampton, which was the shortest spell. He was out of the game for 10 games or 10 days.
Yeah. So like you said, Northampton, how did that move come about?
It was actually, so as I say, he'd been sacked by Gillingham. Him and my mum went away on holiday. They took themselves away. They don't, obviously, with football, you only get to go away in the off season. So he treated my mum to a holiday. The pair of them, they just went away for a couple of days, and Dad got a call from his agent to say, Northampton had sacked Rob Page, and Dad was like, 100% get my name in the hat. Northampton's is a fantastic football club, and he went forward and went through the interview process and turned out to be the standout candidate for the job. And again, I think what we're seeing here with his managerial career was he was never sort of shy to go in when times were tough. Again, Northampton were down the bottom end of the table. It's very rare that people lose their jobs in football when they're doing well. So it's a common theme. He's gone in when somebody, unfortunately, Rob Page didn't maybe have the success that he needed, and he went in, stuck to his remit, and kept him in the football league that season, League One.
Yeah, because obviously players are judged based on their successes for trophies, how many trophies they win. But for managers, I suppose it's a bit different, because keeping a team up who are heading one way is just as successful as winning the league.
Absolutely. And I think as well, you need to factor in different things, transfer windows. I know people don't speak a great deal about the January transfer window, whether it's good or whatnot, but wasn't actually able to really bring in any, obviously a few loans and stuff. But when you're working with a group of players that have been on that sort of down slope, it's about coming in and injecting that belief, instilling that belief that they are good enough and that they can do what's being asked of them. And he had a really good knack, Dad, of going in and getting the players on side. I think, a lot of players speak quite openly that probably his biggest strength was his man management and understanding the individual and what made them tick, what made them motivated. And I think with obviously the group at Northampton, he was able to go in and they managed to string the results together that they needed to secure their survival, and again, a proud achievement for him, keeping a club like Northampton in League One. And I know how excited he was, obviously, ending that season, but being able to go into the summer and they had a takeover, was allowed to go and, really sort of have a go and spend some money and get some players in. And I know that he was relishing the opportunity to see what he could do with a club like Northampton going into that next season.
Yeah, would you say that his time there was cut short prematurely?
Definitely, and I don't want to sound bitter. People will say I am because I'm my dad's son, but I even know it was the most embarrassed that Dad had been in his whole career. Allowed to sign 13 new players. We know Rome wasn't built in a day. Things take time to gel and come together, and they lose their first 4 games, and he gets the sack. Look, losing first 4 games of any season, or losing 4 games in any point of any season, is not great. We all know football is about winning football matches, and he was frustrated. I'm disappointed. I think it was a funny time because, as I say, I mentioned that takeover. I don't think that company that took over Northampton is still involved with the football club. I think they were looking for a name. And fair play to Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, who come in, an amazing guy. Congratulated Dad when he eventually got his foot back in at Leyton Orient, and has spoken very well of Dad. But Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank is a bigger name than Justin Edinburgh, and I think the owners saw the opportunity. Jimmy had obviously achieved great things in his managerial career with Burton and things like that. And once he was available, I think they were just waiting for that point for Dad to have a bad run so they could go, right, out you go, let's in. So listen, Kelvin Thomas, the chairman of Northampton, attended Dad's memorial, as openly said, in interviews that maybe in hindsight it wasn't the right thing to do, because that appointment of Hasselbank didn't quite work out, but maybe with a bit of time, Dad might have been able to get things right. And, you know, as I say, he was really excited with that group of players that he put together. And, he was gutted. He really, really was.
Yeah, because obviously unrelated, but when Chris Wilder first joined Sheffield United, they lost their first 4 games, and now look at them.
Well, there you go. There you go. Listen, no one's to say that would have happened, but football was a funny game, a funny way of going, and they could have gone on to win their next 14 games and then and not get beaten again for the rest of the season. Look, all different possible outcomes, all different potential outcomes and possibilities. We all know that, but absolutely, Chris Wilder, again, another amazing person and a big part of, I think, why Dad got the job, because Chris and Dad, very similar journeys, you know, both through non-league, had come up against each other quite a lot of times. And Chris had obviously just had the success at Northampton, and then Rob Page coming after Chris. And with any manager like that, you know, when somebody has had so much success at any football club, it's hard to go in and sort of replicate that. But Chris Wilder did put in a really good word for Dad to the board at Northampton and said, you know, I think Justin would be a really, really good appointment for the football club. So another person, and fair play to him with what he's gone on to achieve. It's incredible, and hopefully it continues for him.
Yeah, definitely. And then we come on to Leyton Orient. Joined them November 2017. The club was only going one way, and that wasn't up.
No, absolutely not. It was an early birthday present for me, but at the time I told him he was absolutely nuts. So my birthday came a couple of days. He was announced on the 2nd of December officially, I believe. 2nd of December was his first game. It was the end of November. They played Solihull away on the 2nd of December. But again, I remember him telling me that he was going to put his name in the hat for that job. And I just said to him, "You're absolutely nuts. Like, you're crazy. You've just come off the embarrassment of losing your job at Northampton. But at the same time, Dad, you've worked so hard to get into the Football League as a manager and establish yourself. Why on earth are you going to take a club going one way in the conference?" He backed himself, Riley, and he knew. He saw the potential. I remember going with him when obviously the job became available. And Ross Embleton, who is now the current head coach and was Dad's assistant during Dad's reign, was actually caretaker manager for the spell after the previous manager had been relieved of his duties. And we went and we watched it. They played Dover at home. And I remember everything about it. The pitch was horrible. It was a wet, cold time of the year, and I was just thinking, bearing in mind I'm not saying I'm a football expert, but I've gone from being used to watching the standard of League 1, League 2 football back into like this is bad. Like, you sure this is what? But as I say, mate, he backed himself and he went in and didn't change a great deal, and we all know the outcome and what he was able to achieve there.
So obviously, like you said, he joined Orient, and then he kept them up first season, and then last season won the league and the FA Trophy final. Yeah,
very similar sort of, I guess, achievement to that of Newport. Gone in and just instilled that belief in a group that they could be something that, obviously, as I said to you, I didn't see or nobody else envisaged, because a lot of fans, and I've spoken to, like, how has he turned it around so drastically? Unbelievable achievement. I know how hard, and a lot of people know how hard that conference is to get out of. You know, only one automatic and one playoff place. And we became a bit of an expert family with non-league, and I still keep a heavy interest in it now because it was a big part of Dad's career. But to go in and work the magic that he was able to, and I say magic because that's the only way that I can describe the achievements of what he's gone in there and done. I think what I would say about Leyton Orient is that probably for him, because I did actually ask him, where did this rank in terms of his achievements as a manager. I think this slightly pipped the Newport one, albeit the Newport one was probably less expected. And I think that's why this is slightly edges it, is because of the expectation. Leyton Orient fans, and I'm not saying that was the expectation straight away from the people above Dad, but Leyton Orient Football Club is not a conference football club. They're an established football league club. They're enriched in history. You go back, old First Division. They don't warrant being in that league, and to turn it around with that added pressure of it being Orient in the time frame that he did, I know is something that he was ecstatic about. And then to obviously sort of get the cherry on top of the cake, if you will, and a trip out, a day up to Wembley for the FA Trophy final, which is really, really strange how it coincides with that is a year ago
today.
I didn't actually know that when me and you planned this. So, looking back a year ago today, he leads out his beloved Leyton Orient at Wembley, albeit the result wasn't what we all wanted. It was still a fantastic end to a fantastic season, and memories that me, my family and our friends will cherish for the rest of our lives. Yeah,
because obviously there's that footage online where I'm not here for the sake of it, I'm here for the memories.
Yes, absolutely. So
I guess there was a lot of memories that season.
Absolutely. Again, a nice local club for us, so I got to a lot more games. I loved it. Once he was back involved in, you missed the hustle and bustle of non-league football. You really do.
Yeah.
And some amazing memories. Travelled far and wide to watch them because they were playing some amazing, attractive football, you know, and it got me excited. It got my friends excited. We touched it earlier. A lot of my mates had a keen interest because they knew my dad on a personal level. It was like, wow, so many memories with my friends, my families, going and watching Dad's team play that season. And here for the sake of, well, I'm not here for the sake of it. I'm here for that memories. Something that's stuck. Yeah,
and obviously you mentioned you're a Tottenham fan. At the same time, it was the Tottenham's Champions League run.
Yes.
You mentioned before in other podcasts you've done that he went to Spain for the final. Did you go with him?
I didn't, mate. No, I wasn't fortunate enough to. So funny story, actually. I was watching the semi-final second leg against Ajax in London after work. And obviously, we know we went a couple of goals down. I was like, I had the ump. So I left the bar, got on the train home. When I got home, literally I walked through the door and the first goal had gone in. So I ended up watching, anyway, cut long story short, celebrating in the kitchen. He was like, I'm going, we're going to go, like, I'm going to sort it out. I wasn't fortunate enough to be able to get a ticket. Dad was delighted, proud, overwhelmed to be invited as a member of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So he got a letter, email from the chairman, and Dad was actually invited as part of their party, along with other ex-legends and players at the club. An amazing experience for him, you know, to go and see a club that he holds so close to his heart, that we hold so close to our hearts in a Champions League final. I think it just goes to show how far that club's come in recent years, you know, and what a high to go out on. You know, we touched on the FA there, his last game as a manager at the home of football, Wembley, and then to go and see Tottenham Hotspur club that he played for so many years in a Champions League final. I don't think there's, apart from obviously if he'd won at Wembley and if Spurs had won the Champions League, I don't think there's any bigger high that he could have gone out on, to be honest. And it's crazy when you look back at it now and the way things panned out, that they were going to be some of his last memories, some of the last, well, for a lot of the people that he saw out in Madrid, like his ex-teammates and stuff, the last time that he'd ever see them, you know, and really, really bizarre to obviously then go and talk about how the events unfolded. But he was in Madrid. I wasn't lucky enough to go. but I know because he picked me up from a friend's. He picked me up from a friend's barbecue the following morning. So they basically done it like a 24-hour trip. So they went early in the morning. They landed I think 11, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. They'd done all the build up, went to the game, and then they got like an early hours flight home.
Oh yeah.
So they basically done it in a day. He was absolutely exhausted, but he still found the energy to come and pick me up because I'd had a few too many beers with my mates watching the football. So I actually stayed at my friend's, and he came and picked me up the following morning. And that's one of my lasting memories with Dad, was just sitting in the car, just looking at him, and the big grin on his face. It was like the cat that got the cream. It was just verbal diarrhea about what an experience, albeit we didn't win, but just the atmosphere, being around the Spurs supporters, and getting to see Tottenham Hotspur on that stage was a really proud moment for him.
Yeah, and then obviously we're going to move on to the tragedy that happened. You go from, as a family, the highest of the high, watching your dad, obviously your mum watching her husband win the league, get to Wembley, living the dream, obviously watching Tottenham. And then when did you find out about what happened? And do you remember that day?
Yeah, I remember it clearly. I was actually at work at the time, and I got a call. It's funny, but it's not. I'll put a bit of humour into it. I was in the toilet at work, and my phone rang, and it was my mum, and I was like, "Oh, I'll ring her when I come out of the toilet." And then she rang me again, and I thought that's odd. But I come out of the toilets at work anyway. I'm walking back to my desk. I call her, and she was just. It sends shivers up my spine now. She was panicked. She was like, "I think Dad's had a heart attack." So I was like, "Okay, what's going on there?" She was like, "They're taking him to hospital." So I literally went straight back to my desk, grabbed my coat, my blazer, and I left. And I just said to my boss that I've got to go. I'll call you and let you know. I think everyone could sort of tell at work from the sort of picture on my face. I'd sort of lost all colour and everything. And yeah, got to the hospital, and the care and everything that they gave him in Basildon. So he was at the Essex Cardiothoracic Centre at Basildon Hospital for a few days. And, you know, Dad's consultant, Tom Keeble, I'm still in contact with him now. A lot of the work that we're doing with the foundation, he's sort of my go-to man to make sure that I'm doing the right thing. You know, he's an expert in his world of what he does, you know, and him and the team gave Dad absolute expert care the whole time. And, you know, we really are commending the NHS at the moment for obviously the current climate and what's going on, but there's nothing more that they could have done. And that when we got that devastating news, that was obviously, words can't describe it. It feels like it was yesterday. Other times it feels like it was 10 years ago. But I just knew then that I couldn't let my dad be forgotten about, and his legacy and what he'd achieved be forgotten about. And it was quite strange when we got the news on the Wednesday that they feared and that there wasn't going to be anything more that they could do with him or do for him. That's when it sort of kicked into my mind that, right, I need to do what he'd want me to do and be positive and try and make a difference. And we miss him dearly. He's in my mind. I'm consumed by him constantly. I'm always thinking about him. And I think, you know, it's such a strange thing until you lose somebody close to you. You don't understand. Like, I know people often will say, "Oh, I understand how you feel," or "I'm so sorry for your loss." And it's like I'm bitter about it, but I don't think, and I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy, what we went through, until you actually go through losing somebody that's so close to you. It makes you sort of take a step back and reevaluate things, and puts a lot into perspective, definitely.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, putting into perspective, he's probably upset Tottenham didn't win Champions League final. And then 2 weeks later, that doesn't matter at all.
No, not at all. it's funny how quickly things can change, and that's why I'll always say to anybody that ever speaks to me, you gotta live your life. And I know that sounds a bit cheesy, but nobody knows what tomorrow holds, and you've got to live for now and do what makes you happy and what you want to do. And that's what's kept me going, because I know that that's what he would want me to do. That's what my mum wants me to do. And life is far too short as mad as it is. I'm staring down the barrel of being 28 in December, and I'm like, how have I been here? 28 years has gone like that. I'm still got at times the mind of a 13, 14-year-old, in terms of you soon forget. But yeah, it certainly put a lot into perspective for me. And as I say, it drives me on. It's really strange. He drives me on every day. Even though he's not here, of course, my mum and my sister are absolutely everything to me, and as are all my family and friends. But he's the reason I get out of bed every morning, because I want to continue to do him proud and make him proud, and make sure that the work that we're doing is doing him justice, and can make a difference and give something back to people that meant so much to him.
Yeah. I imagine you probably learned a lot, but would you say there was one life lesson that you carry that he taught you?
Yes, and it's something that him and my mum have always instilled in me. Treat others how you want to be treated yourself. That is something that resonates with me, that he always taught me, is always treat other people how you want to be treated. People that you meet on the way up are always the people that you meet on the way down. And I don't think, as I say, I mentioned earlier, there's not one person that I've come across that's had a bad word to say about my dad. So he must have stuck to that. And it served him all right, because I look at how he's perceived and how people have viewed him, and what nice and kind, generous things people have had to say and do. It can only stand me in good stead. And I think it's certainly, there's so much, especially in a time like now, there's so much bad going on in the world, that you just got to just be nice, be kind. Nothing. Exactly. What is it to be nice and treat people with respect, and how every human being should be respected.
Yeah. So a couple of months ago, I was listening to a podcast what Matt Harrold was on.
Okay.
And at the end of that, he read out Joby McAnuff's eulogy. I'm just going to read a statement from it. He said, "Justin was so much more than a manager. He was a leader, a father figure, a motivator, a friend, and a hugely inspirational man." Obviously, me listening to that goes to show how much of a great person he was. What was it like when you were sitting there trying to come to grips with what's happened, hearing people talk so highly of him?
It was strange, because we'd had a private funeral about a week, 10 days before, because we had a funeral because we wanted to, obviously, where it had been so magnified and it was out there. Obviously, it was, as soon as Dad passed away, it was all over Sky. It was a really bizarre situation, Riley. I can't really explain it, because my dad isn't David Beckham. My dad's my dad, but it was really hard to sort of deal with it being out there. So, because not in a horrible way. If my next door neighbours passed away, it's not put out. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a really personal thing, and it was out there. So we chose to have a private funeral for him, for close friends and family. So we'd had that about 10 days before, and then the memorial, I guess, was more of a celebration of his life, as was his funeral. But it was really nice for me to be able to take in what his peers, what his ex-teammates, what his players had to say, and what he meant. And it filled me with so much pride. I got up and I stood and spoke, as did my very close family friend, Zach Kerslake, and my uncle, Sean Derry, a player that I played with at Portsmouth. Joby, Paul Allen. There was lots of people that got up and said amazing things, and it's really weird because they're telling you things. Obviously, there's stories that I hadn't heard and whatnot, but they're telling you things that you know. And I think it was just sort of speaking that out and confirming. But obviously, so heartwarming and so comforting to hear things like what Joby said, and to have obviously had that impact on somebody like Joby. These are Joby's words, right? And the career that he's had. Another one of our trustees, you know, in the short period of time that he'd actually known Dad on a personal level, what an effect he'd had on him. And it doesn't surprise me, my dad. He just constantly good things being said about him. And it just shows me that wasn't just indoors. That was when he went to work. That was when he was around his friends, with my mum on a night out, that he didn't change, and he was him. And he was a really humble, down-to-earth, genuine person. And I think that's why he got so far in the game.
Yeah. And within 2 weeks of the tragedy, the Justin Edinburgh Foundation was set up. I think you touched on it earlier. Was it your idea to do it?
Yeah, so we sat indoors. Well, I sort of plucked an idea while we was in hospital, but I daren't say it because obviously there was all sorts of different things going on at that time. But I sort of said to my mum and sister, look, we need to keep his name going. We need to keep the name alive, but also we need to make sure this pain that we're experiencing, we prevent or try and bring the numbers down on other families having to experience it, because it's something that we can help raise awareness around and use his name, use his legacy to make a difference. And we come together and we felt, you know, it was the right thing to do. He was about giving back to people. He would want to make a difference to anybody. Any Joe Blogs that walked down the street, if they wanted some advice or wanted an autograph, wanted a photo, he'd always have time for people. So we want to make sure that moving forward with the Justin Edinburgh Foundation, that everything that we're doing has Dad at the forefront of it, at the heart of it, and we continue to keep him here with us in some way. We feel that the foundation's the best way to continue him and his legacy.
Yeah, and one of the things you want to achieve is Justin's Law. Can you talk a bit about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is our main objective, main goal with the foundation. Obviously, at the moment, it's probably right down the pecking order with everything else you've got going on. Obviously, with the current climate, I know we'll keep touching on that. It has really put a halt on a lot of things. Because I know a lot of people are like, well, you're coming up a year down the line, you've not really done a great deal. But it's tough. But the Justin's Law and what we hope to achieve with that, and we really are going to start looking to push that out there, that hashtag Justin's Law on all of our social media, is we want to... So when my dad had his cardiac arrest, he was training in a gym with my mum, and that gym didn't actually have a defibrillator on site. And it's not law, so they didn't need to. But we've obviously come to understand a lot more about cardiac arrest, heart attacks, and those early stages of a cardiac arrest. You know, effective CPR and use of a defibrillator are really, really key in giving the person that's experiencing the trauma the best possible chance of surviving and the best possible outcome. So what we want to do with Justin's Law is to try and roll out a law whereby every health and sports facility, so whether that's a gym, whether that's a swimming pool, a cricket pavilion, a golf course, a football ground, is equipped with a defibrillator. It only makes sense to me, you know, people, especially in a gym, pushing their self, because listen, we all go to the gym to keep fit. People go in there who are really unfit and are really pushing their bodies to the limit, and they need that tool there to give them the best possible chance should something drastic like or traumatic as what happened to Dad does happen, that they've got the best possible chance of surviving. So we really feel that with Justin's Law, we've got a really, really good case. It's a campaign that we're going to be working hard on. There's already a lot of planning going into it because these things do take time. But I really, really hope that, further down the line, that we can achieve that goal, and that will do Dad's legacy the world of good, to have a law in memory of him, in his name, with something that is so important and so special and close to him, was sport. He loved sport, and it's really strange how that ended up proving to be his downfall.
Obviously, it's like the defibrillator might never need to be used. It's there if it does, just like a fire extinguisher. You might never have to use it, but if it does, it can be the difference between life and death. You've
given me a new one there, mate. I was right. I keep using the same. I've always said it's like a seatbelt in your car. I like that one. Fire extinguisher, I like that. Fire alarm in your house. You might not ever, you know what I mean? Or smoke detector.
Yeah.
It's that sort of thing. It's just that safety blanket of it being there.
Yeah.
Listen, the idea is you never have to use it. That's what we hope. You never have to use it. But it is just there if and when something like shocking like that does happen.
Yeah. So on August the 3rd, football returned at Leyton Orient. Cheltenham at home. They presented you with a cheque of £1,700 and a pitchside flag, which I love seeing as a football fan. He made you dream again. How big was that day for your healing process?
It was a really, really tough day. It was a really, really tough day because it was a day that I knew and know to this day he would have been looking. He always looked forward to the first day of the season. He was like a kid at Christmas. Excuse me. But I know how excited he was to work with Leyton Orient in the Football League. He was so excited to do so. So for me, not because I'm not a bitter person at all. It was really, really tough to see that group of players come out to play. Obviously, the tribute before the game, the Cheltenham fans and what they'd done with raising funds. Again, they didn't need to do that, and the flag was so touching. It's got pride of place over in the stand at Leyton Orient. It's there. It sort of segregates the away and the home fans now in the old stand over there. But the day as a whole, that fitting tribute, but it was just so tough to be sitting in our normal seats. And he would have this ritual that he'd come out, shake the opposition manager, but then he would turn to us as a family and just, it was really weird. I just found myself looking down at the dugout and just waiting for him to appear. And I still, often when I go over there now, and it's a place that I take so much comfort in going to. It's really strange. Going over there, it just fills me and my family with comfort because we know how happy he was and what that place meant to him. But it was a really, really a day of mixed emotions, and then obviously the fantastic result. But the feeling of seeing one of my best friends, who has become one of my best friends through Dad, Josh Wright, score the winning goal that day, having been Dad's sort of last signing before he passed away. I'm sure you'll speak to Josh about it when you have him on, but it's a feeling, Riley, that so surreal. There was tears, there was everything that you could imagine. But a day again that I'll never forget. I wish I didn't have. It's really weird. I wish I'd much sooner still have Dad here, of course. But they're the days now they're the memories now that I've got to live for. And we, the family, need to live for those special moments to see just how much Dad meant to people. And I think you saw in the emotion of Josh's celebration what that goal meant, not just to him, to us as a family, but to Leyton Orient as a football club.
Yeah, because it was almost like a fairy tale, wasn't it? The fact that it was Josh who scored the winner.
Yeah, again, it's almost one of them things you can't write it. It was almost like he it's really weird. When I'm there, I feel like often he's definitely looking over Brisbane Road. Just like it was almost like the ball it fell perfectly.
Yeah.
Josh, it was just, it was really, really bizarre. Really was a fairy tale. Really, really was.
Yeah, and then the tributes continued November 5th when Leyton Orient played Newport. Like you
Yes.
said earlier, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. When did you hear about that was going to happen?
We'd had contact direct from Newport to us as a family with their intentions. We were obviously over the moon. Again, I think you look at the people that have been inducted into that club's Hall of Fame, there's not a great deal of people. So it's a really, really special honour and a real testament to what he'd achieved with them, you know. So the club had made direct contact with us and outlined to us their intentions of how and when they wanted to do it. And it was fitting to do it with that fixture at Newport, you know, Leyton Orient, the last club that Dad had represented, and then obviously Newport, two clubs that he'd got back into the Football League, and it was a really, really special occasion. Rodney Parade's not a place, obviously, because of distance, that I get to go back to a great deal. I will make sure in the future that I definitely make the effort to get back down there more, because it's only the right thing to do, and it's a place that is special to us. Distance isn't an excuse, and I'll make sure of that in the future. But I think to actually stand, because it's been really nice, obviously, all of the tributes which we've had, obviously, when we're going every other week to Leyton Orient, you often get fans stopping you, telling you what Dad meant. But to actually go and see another group of supporters who held Dad in such high regard, paying their tributes, was really, really touching. An opportunity for me to thank them, us as a family, me and my mum and sister, to thank them. And another really, really special day, and another proud moment.
Yeah, and I suppose that helps to carry on his legacy, because obviously in 50, 60 years' time, there'll be kids growing up in Newport who might not have heard your dad's name, but because of the Hall of Fame, they'll know how big an impact he's had on Newport, even to this day, like obviously still in the Football League.
Absolutely. It was really, really nice, actually. They've set up sort of like a memorial wall for him. So all of the sort of flags, shirts, cards that people at Newport had taken to the stadium to pay tribute to Dad when he passed, they've sort of turned it into a wall of memorial, which is really, really special. It's got his plaque and his date of birth above it. And, you know, for children, when I have my own children, it's a place that I want to take them and show them that this is who Grandad was, this is what he was able to achieve. And it's nice. I'm very fortunate. We as a family are very fortunate that he was able to do and achieve the things that he was able to do, because it allows us those places of comfort to go to and remember the good times.
Yeah, definitely. And then Leyton Orient's support went one stage further. Permanent bit of history, the Justin Edinburgh stand. What was that like, obviously, seeing it and hearing about it, that it was going to happen?
Crazy. Really, really is. Again, you look at football, or you look at any sport, and, you know, not putting Dad in the same category as him, but Bobby Moore's got a statue outside Wembley Stadium. Yeah. You got Thierry Henry's got a statue outside of Arsenal. Dare I mention that? I'm a Spurs fan, but those are people that mean everything to that place. And to have something named after you in sport takes some going. It's not something that's given away easily. So probably the proudest I've ever been. Having a stand named after your dad is something that you can only dream of. I just wish that he was here to see it, because he's funny, he's a character, and he would have been gloating about it and big-headed about it. He wasn't a big-headed person, but with close friends and family, he would
Yeah.
have banter and make out that he was. But just, I think it's the least that he deserves, Riley. I
Yeah.
really do. Not just because it's Leyton Orient Football Club that's done it, but just for what he was able to achieve and give to the game.
Yeah.
But it is really, really fitting that it's at a club where he ended his career and holds such a special place in all of our hearts as a family, and where he was happy.
Yeah, and obviously, like you said, things like that don't come around too often, so he must have done something right when he was there.
I'd like to think so, mate. There might be a couple out there that weren't the greatest of fans of my dad throughout his career, might not have felt that he was the greatest player or manager, but something tells me that he must have done something right to have a stand named after him, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk now about the Essex Charity Cup.
Yes, mate.
Obviously, I started this when I was 13. I'm now 18. So it's been a long journey for me. And the proudest day of it was when I got an email from Howard, who you know, saying that you'd be up for getting involved. Because obviously, to have the founder of the Justin Edinburgh Foundation and the son of Justin, that meant everything. When did you hear about that, and what made you want to get involved?
So I had a call from Howard at the football club. He's been fantastic in sort of helping organise the special days like the Cheltenham game. We also had a JE3Foundation Day for the reverse fixture against Newport. So he's been fantastic. But he gave me a call and obviously made me aware of your intentions, and obviously with the foundation, albeit I am the founder of it, I've got my board of trustees, and obviously my mum and my sister are part of that as well. That I need to, obviously with any foundation, need to run everything past. It weren't as simple as, right, I want to do that, that's what we're going to do. But I think you've only got to see, mate, from the support that you receive from players and, both Leyton Orient and Southend Football Club, Joby and Josh, who are two of my trustees. Unfortunately, Josh wasn't going to be in the country, but Joby was more than happy to sort of come in and help me in the dugout on the evenings. So, look, for us, anybody who is looking to help us towards our goals and achieve Justin's Law, because all of the money that people raise is going to help us do that, as well as other things that we're looking to achieve. But we couldn't wait to jump at the opportunity, mate. And as I say to you, that we really commend everything that you were doing off your own back, because it takes a really special person to, especially with the normal everyday life, that you probably have a job and whatnot going on, to actually, out the goodness of your heart, to want to make a difference and take the time out and do something like this is truly, truly commendable. So obviously we can't thank you enough, mate, and we'll make sure that you know of that.
Cheers, I appreciate that. Because obviously it would have been 2 weeks today that the game would have been played. So if I'm going to do whatever I can in the next however many months to carry on and raise as much as we can before the game. I've spoken to Josh, who said that he'd be up for coming to the game, the rearranged one. So It's like, I don't know if it's the right thing to say, but it could be a blessing, what's happened, because I've come up with new ways. Like, I would never have done this. I wouldn't have had the guts. But if it helps raise awareness, then I'll do it every day of the week.
Well, listen, mate, one thing I'll say to you is that always have the guts. Everything that you're doing is superb. So any idea, you just got to go with it. And that's what I've found, absolutely, you got to crack on and do what you need to do. But I think, you're right. A blessing in disguise is probably right, because it now allows us, is it Havens Hospice, the other?
Havens as well.
Well, to help you achieve and make it an even bigger success, because not to say that it wasn't going to be, but I really, really do feel that with time, with brainstorming, obviously current climate probably is a good time to sort of put our heads together and come up with some ways in which we can improve it and maximise, the opportunity to raise some really good funds for two fantastic causes.
Definitely, because obviously I'm going to, well, you wouldn't know, but I'm going to uni in September to do football marketing. So anything I learn over the next year, that'll make it even better. If one more person knows about it, that's one more person aware of your message. And that's the main focus. So finally, what's the future in store for the JE3 Foundation? What are your plans?
Yeah, so I think again, there was a lot that we'd hoped to have already sort of done by now, but obviously the fact you can't go within 2 meters of people, you can't teach CPR, you can't teach people how to use defibrillators, can't do golf days, you can't do JE3Foundation soccer schools for kids in the summer holidays. There's lots of different things that we've got in the pipeline. Lots of things that we will make sure are done properly and with Dad's best interests at heart. As I said, he's spearheading this, not me. And everything that we're doing, it's more a case of, well, what would Justin do? And I think there's lots of different things that we're hoping to achieve. As I say, speaking to Tom Keeble, who was Dad's consultant whilst he was ill in hospital, specialist in cardiology, I think that's what it's called, or he's a cardiologist. So yeah, one of the best in the country. But he even said that the way that CPR is performed now and stuff like that may be changed because of this whole virus. It's crazy to think that something like this has that much power to keep us indoors, but to change even something like that you wouldn't even think about, So our aims, mate, is just to make sure that we're spreading the message, getting the name out there and making sure that we encourage as many people as possible to go out and learn CPR, go out and learn how to use the defibrillator. We want to help create a generation of lifesavers. I don't think there's anything more rewarding or to say that you've helped save somebody's life. And if we can give people the tools to help them do that and be somebody's hero, then I know that would make Dad proud. So that makes me proud, and it strives me to help along with my fantastic team of trustees to help us achieve that, and the support that we're getting from the footballing world and people outside of that, not just football. Dad wasn't all football, just normal, decent human beings that didn't even know him, like yourself, that want to get involved and want to help. So plans are to, obviously, we were talking about doing sort of large CPR defibrillator training sessions which fans could attend. So we were going to speak, we'd got the green light from Leyton Orient to do the first one there, to allow sort of fans to come to the Justin Edinburgh free stand at the stadium and come and learn CPR with myself. I'm going to get involved in it all. I think I need to be seen getting involved with it and not just sort of taking all the limelight of, you're doing a brilliant thing. I want to make a difference to people's lives, So nobody more passionate than me about my dad. So we'll be looking at doing that at not just Leyton Orient, but hopefully at Tottenham, Southend, Northampton, all of the clubs that he represented. Yeah. We want to be able to help fund, because these defibrillators aren't cheap. There are probably places that can't afford them until hopefully we get Justin's Law where it is compulsory for facilities to have them. But until then, we want to be able to fund them and get them in places and to people that need them most. And then, different events and fun things that people can get involved with, because at the end of the day, we are raising money, but we want to keep it fun and enjoyable. Dad was the life of every party, and we want to make sure that people are enjoying themselves and getting involved with things like the Essex Charity Cup and coming along for a night out with their children to watch something like that, So lots of different things, spoken about golf days, I'm going to look at, once this is all done and dusted, to start getting involved and doing my coaching badges and head up a Justin Edinburgh Foundation soccer school for children in the area. And hopefully we can take that sort of across the country to come on during their school holidays, have a bit of fun, learn some football skills with some, obviously, people that I'm connected with through, fortunately, but also then on that course, teach those children CPR, defibrillator, how to use it, just a really effective way and something a bit different, which I've not really seen done. So couple of things in the pipeline, mate. And as I say, this time for me is really, really useful, really powerful to brainstorm, as I'm sure it is for you, to make sure we utilise the time well. But yeah, there's some of the early things, but the main objective is to campaign and get that law change.
Cool. Well, I think that's really great. And obviously, like I've said, I think what you, your family and trustees are doing to carry on that legacy is great. And it's an honour to be able to help out.
No, I really appreciate that.
And I look forward to welcoming you to Roots All soon.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, hopefully. Listen, I can't believe, as I say, it's been a year already since coming up since we lost Dad. So hopefully we'll have a day like we've had today with the weather, and it'll be a packed Roots Hall for Leyton Orient versus Southend, and very much like my father, I'm a winner. So I'll be making sure that my team do everything on the night to win.
Cool. Well, I'll leave a link in the description for people to donate if they want to, and links as well for your foundation to spread awareness. It's been great having you on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. No, mate, honestly, and we really, really appreciate everything that you've done, and any help, support we can be in the future, please feel free to reach out. Cheers,
and likewise to you.
And obviously all the best with this channel.
Cheers, mate. So we'll see everyone back next time when we interview Josh Wright. Cheers, Charlie.
No worries. Thanks a lot, mate.